Alright, complete disassembly of the M90-130. Alright, I'm going to try to work quick, so pay attention. Alright, we're going to remove the bolt, pull it up and to the rear, hold down the trigger, pull the bolt out. Of course, there's no rounds in the gun, I'm not an idiot. Alright, we're going to move this aside for now, because for now we're going to concentrate on the bolt. Alright, to disassemble the bolt, go ahead and rotate the rifle as if it were the bolt as if it were cocked, like so. Let the pressure go gently. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove the bolt head, give it a turn, pulls right off. We're going to remove the connecting bar, which is this piece here. Alright, that pulls right off. We're going to take the bolt itself, we're going to compress the spring, and going to remove the shroud. It just screws right off. Now if you're dealing with a gun that has never had the cosmoline removed, this particular piece might feel a little sticky and crummy. That's okay, because we're going to clean this sucker right on up. Take that off, allow the spring to decompress slowly, pull your bolt handle off, spring and firing pin. There's your main components. We removed the extractor in the previous video. If you need to do that, watch it. Okay, the actual bolt handle assembly itself, this particular bolt handle assembly is going to take a little trip off because I've got the gentleman over at Rock Solid Mounts is going to be doing the ultra low profile bolt handle modification for me, and the mount that we're going to be using is actually his Rock Solid mount for the round receiver. I'm real excited to get it. There's our bolt parts. Let's move on with the rifle itself. We've got a lot to cover. First thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the cleaning rod. It's threaded. There's a little threaded block in the barrel, okay, or in the stock. Just screw it out till it comes loose. Alright, there's our cleaning rod. Set her to the side. Okay, go ahead and lay the rifle upside down on its sights. We're going to go ahead and take these two leaf springs right here that hold the stock bands in place, and we're going to go ahead and compress it with your thumb and just give the bands a little bit of gentle pressure. Go ahead and make good note as to the orientation of the bands and the size of the bands, people, because I've had people contacting me asking, hey, why is my stock getting scratched up when I put the bands on and off? I'll show you a close-up of the bands, but they are two different sizes. You don't want to get them mixed up. What most people do is they put the forward band and they bang it down the radius of the rifle and it scratches up your finish. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and compress this leaf spring. Take this band off. Now if these little guys here are caked in cosmoline a lot, they might be a little bit difficult to remove. Don't give up. Alright, once you do that, your upper handguard will fall off. We'll cover him later. For the purposes of my Sporterizing project, we're not using the original stock, but I will cover cosmoline removal. Okay, for now, we're going to leave the bands in place. Go ahead and take the rifle, turn it back over on proper side. Just going to clamp it in the vise here so I have something to work around. Normally I'd use my Tipton gun vise, I just don't have it with me. And this, it doesn't take a crazy amount of pressure, just enough to hold it, give you something to work on. Now when it comes to working with gunsmithing and screwdrivers, you don't want to use typical screws or screwdrivers if you can help it. You want to find a tip that fills up the head of the screw completely. Now the particular one I just chose is the proper width, but we want just a little bit thicker so it fills the screw up, just like that. In fact, look at that, I just turned it with my hands. Alright. Alright, remove the rear tang screw, set it safely aside. Okay, same exact screw slot that we use for the tang screw. We're going to remove the front screw that holds the magazine in place. Okay. Alright, we've got the rifle clamped in. We're going to go ahead and just pull the magazine right out. You'll notice that there is a thin film of cosmoline on the whole thing. We're going to handle that in a future video. Okay, now the actual magazine follower itself, all you have to do is this little lever here, pull it back, pull down on the magazine. Alright, go ahead and compress this, That pulls right out, just like that. You notice how it grabs. Little teeth, okay? It just clips back in when you want to put it back together. Alright, there's the basic parts to our magazine and follower plate. We're going to set it aside. We're not worried about it right now. Alright, the way we have our action clamped in right here, all I've got to do is take the stock, lift it off the action, and all the guts stay in the vise. Pretty cut and dry. Alright, so to remove all these components, first we're going to take an appropriate size screwdriver. We're going to remove the screw that holds in the leaf spring for the trigger. Alright, and we do have a match grade trigger to put in this thing later. Right now we're just getting it apart. Alright. Okay, so the pin that holds the, that retains everything here, we're going to go ahead and just take a non-marring mallet and a punch. And knock the little guy right out. Alright, set him off to the side. We don't need him. You've got your trigger and your leaf spring. I mean, that's it. That's all there is to that trigger. Very, very simple design, yet effective. Alright, comes apart like that. There's your two pieces. Like I said, we will be installing a match grade trigger on this guy. Alright, now this screw here sometimes can take a little bit of force to break. This one didn't take any. Always keep your propane torch or small butane lighter heat source handy. That way if you need to heat up these parts you can do that, and then it'll make removing them a heck of a lot easier. Alright, we're going to take the flat edge of a punch. This is probably just going to require hand pressure, but give it some gentle persuasion from the rear. Just gently lift up on the interrupter. Give it a little bit of rearward pressure. Okay. And you notice here the spring has come out of its the leaf springs come out of its groove, and I've got both pieces of the interrupter right here. They fit together like that. Okay, that's how it works. If we need to make adjustments to the interrupter later, we can do so. A lot of times what happens is the tension on the interrupter is set too tight, and you'll get these big scratches on the casings when you chamber them, and it can make chambering the casings a little more, pain in the butt. And then sometimes you can have the interrupter tension set too low, and when you chamber the cartridges, they pop out right out of the rifle. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so removing the rear sight, it can be done, and it's really not difficult. For my particular purposes, I'm probably going to leave the rear sight intact, but what you want to do, just lift it up like this, take a punch, drift that pin out. It'll remove this whole assembly. Then all you do is take a small punch, this little notch that's in this leaf spring, give it some gentle persuasion, it'll pop right out. Alright, now if you want to remove the base itself, all you do is drift these two pins out right here. Likely these are usually silver soldered in place or tin soldered in place. You're probably going to have to give this base a little bit of heat. Give it a rap with a mallet, it'll pop right off. But for now, I'm leaving it on. Okay, so you remember the bands that we talked about there? In order to get those off the barrel itself, what you have to do is drift the front sight globe off. Now the way that I'm trying to have this project done, I know the rock solid mount is a very low mount, and I may not be able to make use of iron sights. I'm almost certain that I won't. I want to leave the iron sights intact right now, but in order to remove this, all it is a dovetail, and it drifts out. Hit it with a little heat and some croil, or allow the croil to sit for a while, hit it with some gentle heat, and it should drift right out. Okay, now sometimes these things are peened. You want to have a look and see where they're peened, and you'll be able to tell which way they were drifted in. Okay? We're going to take a few dabs of our croil, spot it in there, let it creep in. That's what it does. Take a solid hammer, a solid punch. What you'll want to go ahead and do is note the hash marks that were made on the site so that when you reinstall it, you can go ahead and line those markings back up. Also, look at the punch marks where you drove it out, which they shouldn't be very pronounced. I mean, it's just a very minimal little mark on there. And that way you can install the front globe on there again as you see fit. All right, if you want to put it on at all. We're going to go ahead and just simply remove our stock bands. And this thing is basically stripped, other than the tangent sight on the rear. Okay, in terms of our stock, you've got a few options if you want to remove hardware from it. Take that screw out, your butt plate comes off respectively. Okay, the cross bolt that goes in the stock, this is a reinforcement bolt. You can see it in there, hopefully. You can take a special tool that's made to take this nut off the end, give it some gentle pressure, and that cross bolt taps right out. Since I'm not using this stock for anything, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, the small leaf springs that hold the stock bands in, just take an appropriate size punch, give it some gentle pressure from this side, and another corresponding one right there, and those little guys will come out from this side. It's a long lever or a long pin that goes through there, and it sticks out right there. Okay? The nose cap on the stock, of course, that's simple. Just take this screw out right here, and then this little guy comes right off. I'm going to leave this stock intact, but we will cover cosmoline removal.